soon I will discuss with the TAs how we can start having a proper lab session. Okay. But I guess that the assignments and exercises that I am giving are self-doable. So I hope that you guys are not facing any issues. And if you are facing any issues, like I said, feel free to message on the Google Classroom. I don't see much messages. Only Vineet put that he's getting some error. You are not eligible for an Azure free account. So, and the idea behind I asked him to put this message in the group is to, share the knowledge and solutions. So, anyone faced this error and uh, found a solution? Vineet, were you able to find a solution for this? Is Vineet there? You are not eligible for an Azure free account. So try with your TA ID. It should allow it, I think.
Hello, sir.
Yeah.
Sir, I tried using signing up from DID. It says the institute ID is not verified. So there were two different things. One is Azure free, that is for something around 3 months or so, and then it is Azure for students, so that is for some 12 months. So Azure for students, I was not able to avail it because I entered the DA email ID, but it said it is not verified, or this means it was not under their list or something. So.
So can you further investigate like how we can put our institute in their list, and I can follow up with Azure on that. Try to see if there is any instruction or anything there.
Sir, I did the same thing, but I was able to make the student account. I also got an verification email
So you
confirm.
used your DA ID only, right?
Yes,
Yes,
sir.
so yes, sir.
So are you from BTech or MTech?
I am from BTech.
And Vyas, Dishant, are you from
Yes, sir. We
MTech
are
or
from the
BTech?
same batch.
Then why it won't work for one guy and it will work for other?
I'll try once again if this is the case. I'll let you know if
So
it works or not.
was anyone else was you any one of you were able to uh, create a year-long account, the student account?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Okay, try again once, then hopefully it will work. And Yash or somebody else, please put any instructions or anything that you probably found while creating the account in our Google Classroom directly so that others can look at it.
Yeah. Okay.
So, yeah, we need to help each other to get this going because, as I discussed, right, we don't have much help either from institute or TAs. We are on our own, and so we have to find ways, help each other, and have a collective learning on this subject.
Hello,
So
sir.
that is why, yes.
Sir, can you please give the permission to download the video lecture?
I don't know how to give permission to download video lectures. I
So,
try
sir,
to
can you
find
please
that.
open the Google Drive? I think there might be the option.
Okay, let's do that. Google Drive. So here is my Google Drive, and I put everything in here. So I have already shared these, as you can see. Anybody uh, with DA ID should be able to read, get this, get link.
Sir, go to
Anyone of you?
the right top setting icon.
1 second. Anyone with the link, I want anyone from DACT to be able to load. Permission updated. Setting. Search for this file. So there is only one search one. So I will check that. Then what else we can do? Viewer. So obviously I can't give editor permission, right? Because we don't want anybody to be able to edit it. Comment also is not required. Shall I try comment and maybe you can download? I don't know. Viewer should see viewing should be allowed to download. I don't know why it won't allow. So I don't see any.
Sir, click on the done.
Okay, done.
Sir, once again, can you try to share?
Shared. Share.
Right top setting icon.
This one?
Yes, sir. No, sir. Go to the lecture recording folder.
No, but you want to have the same permission for notes content also, no? Not only lecture. For example, you want to download some notes here from here, right? So you should be able to do that for this folder, and it would be same for others also. See, I don't see a permission to tell.
Sir,
Okay,
can you
can
please go to the lecture recording and then click the
okay.
right click?
That link, share. It will be same, right?
Sir, only editors can download the videos. That's a setting in Google Drive.
But that is the stupid setting, right? I want to people to not edit but also download. Editing and downloading for viewing is different thing. Anyway, I am going to create that YouTube thing today or maybe tomorrow, and then let's see if that solves the problem. I already have a YouTube channel where I already posted some videos of from my. It's not on my name; it's on my startup's name. How do we? Where is sign out? Sign out. So this is another thing that happens in this nonsense Google Meets. That I tried logging into YouTube and it through some other account and it logged me out of the recording, the meeting also, and without a clue. I mean, I am still talking to you guys, thinking that I am in the meeting and all. Just silently it kicks you out and you have no idea. I was giving my. You guys can hear me, right?
Yes, sir.
Yes,
Yes.
sir.
Yeah.
So I was giving, I think a year back or something, I was giving my RPS on Google Meets, and my panel, PhD panel, was like obviously there. And I switched my window to like presentation, and then it some in just in the beginning, like after 5-10 minutes, it kicked me out, and I'm just continuously speaking and all and doing and my one of my professor called me also, and because I have put my phone on silent, I didn't even find from that I am not in the meeting. I finished my presentation speaking for 30 minutes, and then when I went back, I saw I'm out of the thing. Such nonsense it is, really. Okay, anyways, sorry about the rant, and we'll start. I will solve these issues, and
So,
we'll start our. Yeah. Anyone have a question? Okay, so how many guys we have got? 103. So our strength of our class is people. 246 students. Wow. Last time I checked, it was like 201 or something. So 246 students and only 103 are there. 102 excluding me. It's not even 50%. So I don't know. You guys don't. If you are not liking this course, let me know. How can I improve? But please attend the classes. I guess more questions, more discussions will help this course rather than seeing the recordings. Anyways, up to you guys. Okay, so last time we discussed about this kind of exercise, right? I hope that you found it interesting, and I also shared some assignment tutorial type things which will help you get things done. So I deliberately, what do you say, gave the assignment using where you will use the portal, okay? Because I have not spoken about yet about the tools that we have got, which you can use for scripting and all. So that is why the assignment talks about go to portal and do these things and that things, okay? Um, so we will cover that. It's a common ground. So once we prepare for, I mean, once you are aware of it, then it gives you all the tools that necessary to experiment independently and learn, right? So that would help you. And it starts from a general idea about resource management in Azure, right? I have emphasized so many times that resources that are created on cloud are going to cost you money, right? So management of the resources is very important. It is in the cloud provider's interest that they provide the right tools and the right um, what do you say, setup and the grouping and the workflows so that it is convenient for its users, like us who are using the cloud. They may be direct users, they may be developers, they may be businesses, right? So for them, it should be doable. It should be easy to manage the resources in Azure. If the cloud service provider is not providing me the right tools, if it is not helping me to reduce my costs, I will most likely move to some other cloud service provider, right? So it is in the interest of the cloud service provider because it will retain their customers. So good thing is for us, cloud service providers go to so much lengths to make sure that resource management is very, very helpful, easy to do, very logical, and targeted towards making clarity on what is going to take, what is going to cost, how much, and helping you optimize your cost with maximizing the return of investment, right? But even then, there are many things we should be still be aware of from the cloud usage perspective because cloud service provider can only do so much. They can give you the tools, they can give you the instructions, but if you don't read them properly, if you don't know about them, if you don't know these two things should be linked together, you're going to miss, right? So that is why no wonder there is cloud certifications from cloud service providers that okay, this guy has this certification means he or she knows about the details of that particular area, right? So it's a lot of knowledge. This course is also like how to use cloud, right? How to not how to build cloud. But over the years, I've seen this, and 99% of people actually use the cloud. It is very, very important to know how to do things. So that is where our resource management in Azure comes into play, and we should be aware of the idea behind it, the general goal. General goal is optimal or maximum return on your investment, meaning
Hello, sir.
yes,
So your screen is not visible.
screen is not visible.
No.
Okay, all right. I did not share it after I joined, so let me share it. Sorry. Anyways, it's fine. I just had one slide showing up. Can you see now?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Yes, sir.
Okay, great. Whenever I'm talking, right, just immediately see if you think I have forgotten to share the screen, just immediately tell me, because I will never talk anything without sharing screen. Okay. So Azure Resource Management, how it does. Azure Resource Manager is the deployment and management service for Azure. So the resource management part is a separate service, separate management layer. You can say it's a separate component which you can use to manage your resources. It provides obviously a management layer that enables you to create, update, and delete resources in our Azure account. Why it is important? Just it will come very clear in a couple of slides, I think. But overall, you can manage all the resource creations and stuff with Azure account in with this management layer. Okay, and you can do access control logs. You can have tags to secure and organize the other resources. Tags will have, for example, in searching of resources or some other information you want to attach with the resource that you have created. So, and you can organize your resources, right? So this is all about resource management. So what is the overall picture in Azure? And similar thing will be there for other clouds also, okay? So we have got these resources. On the bottom are the different resources you will create. You will create some data store, you will create some web application or a virtual machine and some other service management things, right? So it could be other things also. So the resource manager provides you a uniform way of doing things, rather through the Azure portal, okay? So Azure portal will send the request directly to resource manager, which we don't implement Azure portal, but it will do so. Authentication is managed by resource manager. So resource manager will not let you get to your virtual machine unless you are authenticated, right? So that is what it means. But this Azure portal is a human interface, right? You click and fill the forms and stuff. But like I said, there are two command line interfaces. One is Azure CLI, Azure command line interface. Another one is Azure PowerShell. They have their SDKs, meaning SDK software development kit API, set of API, which will be part of the PowerShell or Azure CLI. They will have separate SDK meant for them, and that SDK will indirectly call the resource manager API sitting in the cloud and get the things done. So through your scripts, here we will have scripts, and through the scripts and through the SDKs, you can still do the same thing that you were able to do through Azure Portal. And REST client, the resource manager also exposes REST API, which then can be used by REST client. REST client could be like Azure Portal is a REST client. You can write your own website and connect to your VM or create interact with your web app or data store through the REST API that is exposed by resource manager. So resource manager, as you can see, is a layer which will help you access the resources, create the resources, manage the resources. So obviously it's very important and good to know about, right? So it provides a consistent management layer. So it's not that your portal can do something directly to a data store. No, it will also have to go through the same thing. So it makes things simpler, uniform, and consistent across the various ways you can access the resources, right? You can access the resources in Azure from portal, from PowerShell command line scripts, from Azure CLI, from any other REST client. It could be a mobile app, it could be your own app, it could be a desktop app, anything, right? But everywhere you will face the same challenges. If you are to authenticate using multi-factor authentication, you will face the same challenge across the access layer. So that is the advantage apparently, right? Terminology resource is basically anything that you create in Azure, okay? Anything that has it's a manageable item, could be virtual machine, storage account, stuff like that. Everything which basically will cost you some or other money. Um, Even subscription is a resource, but in general, what we will deal with resources are the tangible things that we can use, like a database or a storage account or virtual machines. So this is very important thing, resource group, okay, and it makes life so much easier. So it is basically a container that holds the related resources for a Azure solution. The resource group includes these resources that you want to manage as a group. So think of resource group as a folder, as a container. So just like a folder, I can, if I, let's say if I have this DICT folder, right? In year AAY, academic year 2020, 2021, I have all these files. So I can individually manage them, right? Delete them, create them, add more files. But if I want to delete the whole group, if I want to somehow, let's say, delete all these files, everything contained in this folder, I will simply go back and do a delete on this folder. Everything else will get deleted, right? Now, it will include anything that is not visible here. So there could be some hidden file, right? But if I delete the resource group or the container, it will delete everything. So it will be a sure shot, 100% guaranteed deletion of resources, right? That is I think, the most important thing to know about resource group. The resource group can, uh, if you delete your resource group, it will delete all the resources inside of the uh, in that resource group. Now, why is that important? Let me, in the meanwhile, start creating a virtual machine temporarily, and then I will show you. So if I log on to portal.azure.com is the website. So this is my company account, some folks with whom I work. So I'll just try to use their money for some time. Don't tell anybody, okay? Even though it's getting recorded. So I'm creating a virtual machine, right? So when you create a virtual machine, so we are creating a resource. Okay, so it will give you the subscription. So these guys gave me access to this. They created one subscription where I execute most of my projects, and that is the subscription I can select. If I am given more subscription, uh, it will come in that list. So now you can see at the top level also, where I'm just logging in through this directory ID. If you see the bottom, there is a directory ID in that pop-up that is coming up, right? Monocept Consulting. So this is a Azure Active Directory. Okay. So it's like enterprise way of managing the access and roles. So Active Directory roughly is hierarchy of resources and people and users and permissions and roles and combining them together. So like that. So the Azure Active Directory have created my uh, account in that directory, and then they have assigned me some role, and they have given some permission on that role. So anybody with that role will get the permission, and they gave me access to this particular subscription. That is how it is showing up in my um, what do you say, in this portal when I'm trying to create a virtual machine. Because like we said, we know that a resource cannot be created without a subscription. So I have to provide first one subscription, Now, under that subscription, we are creating this virtual machine. But what is the resource group that you want to create? So if you want to create a new resource group, you can create a new resource group. If you want to use existing one, you can use existing one. If you create new, it is simple. One more thing, resource group is not something which will cost you money. It is simply a group, a virtual grouping mechanism. Okay, it doesn't take space, so it is not costly, or it won't cost anything. So you can create a new one. So we won't create a new one because they audited. So I'll use existing one. Let's say Interbase project was there. So I am going to imagine that I created this new create a virtual machine. So I can name it temp experiment or something, temp exp. Then you need to provide the region, right? When we discussed about regions associated, so there are so many regions that are there in Azure. Some are recommended, as you can see, some are recommended, some are others. So far, I have not tried other regions, creating a VM in other regions. So always use recommended regions. And I think the only one in India, there are three in Azure regions in India. One is Central India, which is in the recommended list. And the other two are not in the recommended list. So availability zone, as you can see, this availability set, right? If you want to have multiple VMs and availability set, you can create one. So right now we are not going to create. Security type, basic, then image. What kind of OS you want on that? So it has like various OS. You can select a Windows server with SQL Server already installed, so you don't have to set up yourself. So they are already providing so many of images. You can even actually see all the images. But for now, we'll create, let's say, Windows 10 machine only, because what I want to show you is simple thing. So let us use medium uptime user, and then need to create some password. So this is the username and password you will use to get into that machine, okay? And you will open one port so that you can remote desktop to that machine. You can connect to that machine through remote desktop. And then there are many other options, like what kind of disk you want to create, what kind of networking you can want to create, and all. So we will not go through this. There will be some discussion later in the course which will have some things covered. But right now we want to just create the virtual machine. So okay, confirmation, view plus create. So it will review whether everything is you have provided is set up. And as you can see, the cost is 7.5 rupees per hour. Okay, so every hour it will run. So it is less like unit is hour. So if it is 1 hour, 1 minute, you are charged for 2 hours. Okay, so it looks small, but over the time, people forget to shut down the machines. Some run continuously, and then the cost just goes more. So what we are doing basically is creating one resource, right? Okay, 1 second. What I will do is, because I want to delete the resource group. So let's create a new one. 10 experiment RG resource group, because I will delete it. Otherwise, if I delete Interbase, it will delete everything, and that I don't want to do that. So let's again review and create. So I am creating this virtual machine, okay, under temp exp, temp experiment resource group virtual machine. So while this virtual machine gets created, we will go back to our slides and go further into this, and then come back to the virtual machine. So resource group is basically a logical grouping of the resources. Now remember, the point I wanted to highlight is we are creating one resource, virtual machine, right, under a resource group. Now we'll see how it complicates things a little bit and why resource groups are important. A resource provider, we can just forget it, it's just some uh, abstraction over what Microsoft.compute is representing the virtual machine and storage is representing the store account. This is important when you try to access something through the SDK. So we need to be aware of what is the resource provider thing. Resource manager templates, again, an important thing to understand. I'll just tell you more about these templates. This is important because templates it's like coding, right? You have a language and then you code and write programs. So similarly, you can use resource manager templates to write scripts. They are JSON files. Write scripts to automate the resource creation and all. So when I'm creating this virtual machine and all, it is manual process, but everything manual is not possible. So that is why we can use resource templates to automate our things. Okay. The scoping, so we have got the management scope, like I was given one iData subscription, right? There's somebody higher up in the chain allowed, is having that management scope, and it created one user account, Lavneet at Monocept, and then added the subscription to that. That is at the management level. Then at subscription level, you get a subscription and then only you can create some resources. But as you would have observed, the resource group creation step was mandatory there, right? So if you see, the resource group is a mandatory thing, required field, right? So required field means you cannot have this thing without resource group. Earlier, when Azure began, I think they might still have it. Let me just quickly check. Virtual machines. Earlier they used switch to classic. Yeah. No, this is. So earlier they had this classic virtual machines also, which were the first version of machines which did not require a resource group. But now they may have made it mandatory because they will get in phases. That's always the way to ship your software. Define the minimum viable product and then ship it, take feedback and iterate over it, and then ship more and more work on top of it. So if I am the program manager of Azure and my competitor Amazon is shipping software or a cloud service ahead of me, so I am not worried about resource groups first, right? I want people to let the virtual machine get created first, right? Management of that is later. So I will first implement this without this resource group layer and then introduce the resource group. So that is exactly what they did. Earlier, you were able to create virtual machines, and then now using Azure Resource Manager, that management Azure Resource Manager layer came afterwards. This layer came afterwards. So now it's part of the architecture. So resource groups are mandatory. And then underlying that, we get the resources after the resource groups. So this is the hierarchy of the various abstraction levels or control levels that we have in Azure. And so let's go through again. Resource groups are important, so that is why we have full slide for them. And let's see, all resources in our resource group should share the same life cycle, right? Life cycle means if we create a resource, the resource group, it's recommended that we want to create them for the same life cycle, okay? Because Then if you want to delete it, then you delete all of them together. Each resource can exist only in one resource group. So this is very important. One-to-one mapping from resource to resource group. A resource cannot be part of two or more resources. It has to be only inside of one resource group. One resource group can have multiple resources, but one resource cannot come under multiple resource groups. The resources in a resource group can be located in different regions than the resource group, and this is also important. It's not necessary. So resource group is also a resource at the end of the day, and a resource will get assigned a region where you are creating it, right? In which data center the entry of that resource group is maintained. Now, it is not required that a virtual machine that you're creating is going to be created it has to be created in the same region, not required. You can create a resource group in Central India location, and then you can create a virtual machine under different. Now, somebody can ask, sir, when you are creating the resource group, you did not specify the region for the resource group. We just specified the region for the virtual machine, but there is no way to specify the region of the resource group. The answer to that question is that by default, it will pick the same resource that you create for the first time resource group. You will create, it will pick the same region where the first resource of that resource group will be there, and then it will be that resource group region. I think through command line interface, you probably can specify what region it should be. The resource group separately also. In UI, it is not available. But the point is, they need not to have the same regions. You can have different regions, but same resource group. Okay. So it mentions here when we're creating a resource group, you need to provide a location for that resource group. So this will be available through the command line interface. Can be used to scope the access control for administrative actions, can connect resources through other resource groups. So it is not a isolation boundary in terms of access and all, it is only a management group, right? One resource in one resource group can connect to other and things like that. It is not that the resource group is a firewall or anything. It is just a grouping part. If you delete a resource group, all resources in the resource are deleted. So this is important. Some resources can exist outside of a resource group. These resources are deployed to the subscription management group or tenant. So what is a tenant? Tenant is basically like my account, the Azure directory account is a tenant to the Azure account of Monocept ID. Because they can kick me anytime out, right? But I am using their resources. So I am not a permanent, I don't own the account, right? The Azure account, that overall management account that Monocept has, but I am a tenant over there. So you should learn about tenants in Azure terminology. Okay. Coming back to the VM that we created, temp exp. Okay, so this is the detail of the virtual machine, right? If we go to resource group, this is the resource group. It will give you all the resources under that resource group, right? Now, here is the important thing. What we did, we created only one virtual machine that was one resource in a resource group, okay? But as you can see, it's not only the virtual machine that got created, right? It's not only the virtual machine. An IP address resource got created, a network security resource in security group got created, a network interface got created, a disk got created, a virtual network got created. Okay. So when creating a VM, it is not a fundamental resource. It depends on other VMs. For example, other resources. It needs to have a network interface. It needs to know where my virtual network where is my network group is, right? Virtual network is, in which virtual network I'm going to be if I'm a VM. So the portal is giving you a easy interface saying, okay, you tell me this is the name of virtual machine, this is the region you want to create, I'll manage the rest of the things underneath it automatically. But unfortunately, for novices, for people who are not aware, right? They will think this may be misleading. They will think that I created only one virtual machine, only one resource, a virtual machine. And you go to, then what you will do, you go to virtual machines, okay? You select it and you can delete it, right? You can delete the virtual machine. If I delete this virtual machine, guess what? It is not going to delete many of the resources under this resource group because actually the virtual machines only is this resource. Okay, when I delete the virtual machine, only this one will get deleted. Maybe one or two others, but not all. Okay, we can check that. And let me go to this. Okay, delete. So I'm deleting the machine. Let's see what all gets deleted. Maybe. Okay, so it is asking what all we need to delete with the virtual machine, right? So three of them it is asking. Fourth one is the virtual machine. So let us see. Go back to the resource group. So there's a disk one, 3 to 5. There are 5 of them. Okay. Now if I delete, so now it is asking. So now you can see. So this is their improved interface. It is giving you an option to giving you a clue that if you delete a source machine, you need to delete all these probably also, right? So you can opt for these. Okay. Earlier, it was actually only this one will come, and you click delete, and then it will delete. But rest of the things will get deleted, not get deleted. Okay. So that is the problem. So I delete the virtual machine. Let me opt for this and see. Okay, what should I do? So what I want to tell you is that deleting this apparently will not delete these because it is already telling you that these are the associated resources. If you want to delete them, then you go ahead, right? So let me delete them. Let's see if anything is left. That will substantiate our case more. Otherwise, I can just talk about it. That's okay. So if we go to the resource group, it will delete the virtual machine, and then explicitly we said that delete the other 3. We will see if anything else is left. Okay. But if you take the scenario previously, I was mentioning that in the previous user interface, or if somebody is not keeping a good eye, you are deleting only a virtual machine. Logically, it will explain. I created a virtual machine, I deleted a virtual machine. But when you created a virtual machine, there are many other resources that got created. So if you think that you're deleting a virtual machine is done, sorry, that's not going to happen. When the next bill comes in your billing cycle, you will see you are billed for the IP address, for virtual network, for disk. Okay, so you will incur cost without knowing the fact that that you did not delete the virtual machine. You had still some remnants of that virtual machine pending in your whole group. Now imagine without resource groups, you have only virtual machines, right? And a bunch of list such resources. It will become a nightmare to manage those, right? You don't know which disk is which machine's disk, right? So those kind of issues come. So the virtual machine got deleted successfully. So let's see what got left. Refresh. It did not delete it. It still might take time to show up here. Yeah. So as you can see, it still did not delete these 3 things: virtual network, NSG, and IP, isn't it? But if you delete the resource group, it will delete everything. Had there been the other things that are there, it will delete those also. So if I say temp expRG, okay, and delete, now I am deleting the resource group. It will delete everything under that resource group. Okay, so what is the practical thing that I can tell you? So if I go to virtual machines, so in my this online work that I do, I get mostly I use virtual machines, or sometimes I have to create some like web app or SQL servers and things like that. What I do, and but it is always project based, right? So as you can see, this interface is a separate project. SQL Secure 4.1 is also a separate project. So what I do is these when these projects finish, I create a resource group by the name of the project only, and everything goes under that resource group. So this interface resource group has a virtual machine, and you can see there were so many other virtual machines. I deleted some of them, but there are still much of this remnant are left. See, Win server 19 IP is still pending here, right? Because I only deleted the virtual machines, I did not delete the whole resource group because I still needed this one virtual machine, this one, right? So this is also a problem. It could be better managed. So I am incurring cost for these resources unnecessarily, right? So I will clean that up. But the idea is at least at the project level, if I want to, I can simply finish the project and delete this whole resource group. Because as you are not seeing, I have worked on many other projects, none of them is here because it is clean. I deleted the resource groups for against those projects that I created, and therefore everything gets deleted nice and clean. But you can go to lower level, you can create VMs against each resource group. So for example, if you have dev and test people using different VMs, you can create a resource group for those separately under one. You cannot have resource group under resource group. It's not hierarchy like that. So you have to name the resource groups like that. So if you now see home and resource groups, so that resource group is no longer there, right? That we created temp exp, and none of the resources under that resource group will be there. So you won't find anything related to that resource group anywhere. So that is the advantage of um, using resource groups. Most important is this only. When you're deleting, you will be able to delete everything very cleanly, nicely. Provided that you manage the resource groups properly. Like I did not manage it properly here, so interface resource group still has something which I don't need, right? So, but the tools that they provide, the grouping and these things that they provide, Azure service, cloud service providers, they help you, right? This is helping me, right? It is telling me you can use it effectively to avoid costs on your uh, unintended costs on the resources. Okay, so I hope that it makes things clear. Any doubts, any questions, anyone? So remember to read about the tenants thing, okay? Okay, so let's talk about the CLI part. Now I told you that there are two things. So portal we have already told, I have already told you about. REST clients we will do it later in our hands or something. Now we are going to talk about the command line. So there are two of them, PowerShell and CLI. Okay. Earlier, CLI started with the command line tool, or the CLI was the command line tool which was available cross-platform. It was available on Windows, it was available on Linux, um, it was available on macOS. So all three platforms had CLI available. PowerShell, on the other hand, is a scripting shell for Windows. Okay, modern scripting shell for Windows. It replaced that black DOS command line that was there. Okay, and earlier PowerShell was not available on, or Azure PowerShell was not available on other platforms. It wasn't there on Linux. It wasn't there on macOS. Okay, but now I think it is available. So now you have got real true option of either of the two. Okay, we are going to talk about CLI because that is it's not easy or difficult to understand. It is just that when I started this course, for this reason that this is available for all three, I wanted to talk about CLI. In other thing is generally the commands that we use in CLI are shorter, less descriptive, but that might be more helpful sometimes or not helpful. So you can, I would suggest you stick to CLI, but people who want to have their careers in IT management, they should definitely learn PowerShell not only for Azure, for Windows-based management also. Okay, but for this course, I will expect you to learn Azure CLI and use it. Okay, so it is the automation using CLI, and I will talk about automation a little bit later also. But right now, I'll just introduce this to CLI. So AZ or AZ, as the Americans call it, AZ is the command tool starting the command line. AZ is the starting command, right? So AZ, then XYZ. So it's a basically you can manage all the Azure service, most of them, using command line. Okay, it works on all these three, and you can run it using Azure shell also. So if you see here, now they have launched this cloud shell that will automatically log you in. Okay, and see, it is connecting to terminal, so it is checking my authentication here, and it is going to log me in through the same command line. So you can see it is authenticating to Azure, and now it is launching me. So now it when I ran it for the first time, it said that you do not have a storage account where we will save our files and all. So it is using a resource from your subscription, though it is not costing too much. I think few tens of rupees in a month, but it still costs money if you run Cloud Shell on the client. But it is straightforward. It is you don't have to authenticated and all those things are not there, right? So AZ, okay. So if you type AZ, as you can see, it will tell you what all commands are there. So AZ is your AZ CLI, and you can have this list, right? So you can say AZ version. So it can tell you all the detail, what kind of version it ran. 2.32 is the CLI version and things like that. And then you start your work. So the VM that we created through all the click can be created here also using ACLI, right? It apparently, obviously, it comes as a separate tool you can install on your machine also, okay, and work. So when you sign in, which it did automatically on the Cloud Shell, in the tool that you will download on your machine, you can use AZ login to sign in. Okay. Now here there is only one line that you can use AZ login to sign in, but there is so much detail about how to authenticate from using AZ command line. Why? Because for Hello World application, for learning like here us, AZ login is fine, right? But who is doing AZ login? I am doing it as a human. I am doing. So I know my password. When I do login, it will pop up a Windows Azure login, and I will have to type the password. What about when you write the script? Okay, so one option could be that, sir, I will write the username and password as the command line parameters. Fine. but then you have to give the password or write the password in the script. How do you know somebody else will not steal it? How do you know? How do you control the access to it? Right? It is never, or it's not even a good idea. Make it a principle that you will never store a password in a text file, whether it's a script file or anything else, right? So then, how do you log in then? How do you even start sending the commands to Azure? So there is a lot of detail in just for authentication. For example, you can use something called service principals. Principal is a account which is not associated with the user, but it can be used to log in. So you should definitely, especially those people who want to work in IT, should definitely go to docs.microsoft.com and learn about AZ sign-in. There are so many details, like service principal. Sign in, you can sign in interactively, like AZ login, right? You can sign in using username and password, right? All the options that are there, but this is not a good practice for, especially for scripting, right? This is what I'm talking about, signing in with a service principal. Okay, this anyone who is going to go for IT must understand this completely. Even I don't understand it completely, to be honest. So you guys need to figure it out. Okay, but once you get into it, right? Like I don't understand. There are hundreds of people who do not understand, but you will understand. So you get an edge. You get an extra knowledge which other people or common people won't do. So go for it. Okay. So there is so many detail that obviously I am missing, but I'm just trying to point you to that, which you can use. Anybody interested, or especially anyone who wants to move to management of cloud resources, should definitely learn about this. So what is the general structure of AZ commands? So there are kind of a nice hierarchy of commands. So you have this AZ word, right? All for all the commands. Then you have something called group commands. So all the commands related to VM create, VM delete, VM change the IP, VM switch to static IP, things like that. They will be AZ VM create, AZ VM connect, or something like that. Similarly, so AZ, then the group command will come, VM or group or Key Vault or web app or SQL Server or Cosmos DB. Cosmos DB is the NoSQL option in Azure, storage account. So they are all the many more. They are the, this is the pattern. So AZ, then the group command, okay, like VM, and then what action you want to do on that VM, right? So the command in the CLI are organized as commands of groups, and then each group represents an Azure service and the commands that you can operate on that service. So it is nice laid out, nicely laid out. There are globally available commands like help, the output, how do you want to show the output, whether it is tab separated values or human readable access, table wise, and YAML, things like that, query. Um, these are like global arguments that you want to use. Now, for example, how you can create a virtual machine using AZ. So first I will do AZ login, okay, which automatically is done if I am logged in on Azure portal. What is that? What they call it? Portal CLI. Cloud Shell, sorry. Cloud Shell. If I am logged into Cloud Shell, it will automatically log me in. Then I will create a resource group. So I will run this AZ group, create name, learn AZ, location, central India. So now you can see if you are creating the command, or this group means resource group. So if you're creating a resource group, you need to provide the location here. So central India, like this only you have to provide. You cannot put a space because this is the ID of the data center. Okay. So AZ group, this is AZ is the group, is the group command I want to create, and it will require some parameters. So name, learn AZ, and location, Central India. Okay. So now it will return back the response saying that I created this and that. Okay. So if you now go to home and resource groups, you will find learn AG somewhere here. It's not there. Should be refresh. Yeah. So you see learn AG is there, right? So now you can use that group. AZ group create done. Now AZVM create. So AZVM group command. I want to create a virtual machine resource group. I created learn AZ, so I'll put that here. Name of the machine, like we gave that machine name. Image, right? Which image you want to use? Image is the OS image which will mount on to this virtual machine. So it will become the Ubuntu machine, and then admin user is this, and then you can generate the SSH keys to connect, and then it will give you the output in JSON. It should be verbose that how it is creating, and then it will create the output in JSON. Okay, and then using some tool called putty or something, you can connect to that machine. Command line machine, it will be plain machine, but you can run Linux commands on that. So that is how you can create a VM. Once you create, then you can tell AZVM show is also there, which will show you the details of this machine, and the name should be learn easy. Okay, and it will show you the details of the machine. If you want to delete, then you can use say AZ group delete and no wait. So it will not wait, it will return the command line immediately back, because it will take some time to delete the resource group, including all the resources within it. And then either you can also wait to delete the, wait for this whole group to get deleted. Okay. So you can run AZ group delete and name learn AZ and no wait. Are you sure you want to operate this? And I think now for scripting, how will you provide this option, right? So those things you will come to hit, you will hit only when you try doing these things in command line, in scripts. So like that, you can use the command lines to create the virtual machines delete. And what I will advise you is to now onwards never use the portal. Okay, always use command line so that you can learn about it. You will get comfortable with it. It's like mathematics, right? The more you do, the more you learn. So never use portal from now onwards. Always use command line. Okay, why? This is what explains it. Infrastructure as code. So this might be very new thing for many of you. How can infrastructure be a code? With cloud, it has become. And therefore, infrastructure as cloud has opened a new stream of skill set which you can get and get employed or build your career in. And this is what I am talking about. It is infrastructure as code, so it is not more much of application programming, but infrastructure programming, scripting and all. So it is easier than regular programming. And add to that, if you have knowledge about networking and stuff, you can become a very powerful, very well respected, and fast growing in career person. Okay, even if you don't like programming and you're in software or IT career. So what is infrastructure as code? So infrastructure as code, because this VM, this set of scripts that we wrote, right? The set of command lines we wrote, we could have put them in a script and ran, right? What it would have done, it would have created a virtual machine for us. It would have created a resource group, created a virtual machine under that resource group, and all the other associated resources Then whatever we could want to do with the resource, that virtual machine, it will do it, and then it will delete the resource group if required, or if that's part. So this is kind of a code which ran and created an infrastructure for us. So we have these scripts which run again and again, and create the infrastructure and then delete it, manage it properly so that we can become more agile in shipping our products, right? So what it means really. So for example, let's say I have a script which creates some set kind of machines. I can parameterize the scripts also, right? So if I want to create, let's say, it can ask me what OS and how many numbers you want to create, for example, right? So I can supply those parameters. The script will create those VMs for me. It already knows the region, preferred region, or things like that. So I can use the script before my test cycle runs. So I know that every week I ship the product. So Friday is the testing day, or Thursday is the testing day. So on Thursday morning, automatically a script is scheduled which will create 5 VMs, for example, 5 Windows VMs. Testing comes at 9 o'clock, starts testing, all the VMs are already ready. So they use those VMs, test them out, and in the evening, automatically script is run, another script is run, and which deletes those resource groups clean. Right? These two scripts run are automatically scheduled on Azure DevOps or some other way. So your infrastructure got created through code, people used it, and it got cleaned up, all automated. That is what infrastructure as code can achieve. Okay, and it goes much beyond than that. You can use containers, you can use all kind of details. You can use something which is a pipeline, right? So the build pipeline, then you test pipeline, then you ship, deploy. All these things are called as part of a new term called DevOps, development and operations. Development and operations. Earlier, the development was separate. People will have teams and they develop the software. They will use the infrastructure that was only meant for development. And operations team after deployment will take over deployment on the server that is being managed by the operations team, because deployment is happening for the end users, right? So operations team will manage it. Now it is combined. There is no separate development and operations. So some resources, the same VMs we will create for development, then another set of VMs you will create for operations. Those VMs will not get deleted. These development VMs might get deleted. So that is the only difference, right? So it's the combined thing that has come into picture, DevOps. So the same team now manages the infrastructure and application through the code in a unified process. CI/CD pipeline, if you would have heard about these terms, continuous integration CI, continuous deployment CD. CI/CD pipelines is a very common thing. It basically tells you that when the processes, the steps a software needs to take while from writing code to shipping is automated. That is called CI/CD pipeline. Okay, so those things can be enabled in Azure using these DevOps. So very important thing, very new also. So we can automate the deployments, right? So that is by using infrastructure as a code, and it becomes part of our project. So those scripts and all will also become committed in the repositories and all, right? So just like application code, you use infrastructure code in the repository and version it, right? So you can run the deployment, run the code and deploy the similar environments, because script will create similar environments, you can deploy it. Okay, in Azure infrastructure as code, another one is the scripting thing. One is this Azure resource templates, right? So you define your resources in the templates. They are called ARM templates, Azure Resource Manager templates. Okay, so Azure Resource Manager templates, what they will do, they will basically have a proper schema. It is a JSON-based schema, and it's a fixed schema, so you can run tools on them. You can expect what to come, and they can be processed. So, for example, there could be some parameters inside that template, there could be some variables, some user-defined functions, some resources, some outputs. So these all things are there, and there is a link also. I'll share it in the what is it? The slides. So this is the one. So you should go through this ARM template creation. Okay, everyone should go through it once, and then the people who want to learn more about command line and build their career in this, you should go in more details. So it can tell you all the way. So this is the basic template. What do you say? Hello world template. Right? This is the hello world template. Then you can add stuff into it. So for example, you can add a resource. Go to the step 2. You can add a resource in the template. So here you are creating some resource, storage resource, right? And you can then create this by PowerShell command like new AZ resource group deployment. Name this template file is. I have provided you description here. So pick up this file. That is what I'm telling this command line. You can use the Azure CLI part also, AZ deployment group, create, and instead of giving all the names here, you can tell them, wait, this is my template file. And it will pick up the template file, read through it, and run. So how does it help? You don't have to repeat everything here. You can parameterize things, and template files can be combined. They can be imported in each other like header files we have in our programming. It will make things a lot easier. Like a lot of thought has gone into creating these things. So you should explore it. Okay. So I'll give you another assignment to do for this. So what is next? Template design is fine, that's fine. Template design basically, like I said, you can import the template, you can have nested templates. Okay, you can parent template could be there, which will use these 3 different templates, one for creation of VMs, one for web templates, one for nest DBs, right? So you can make a hierarchy of that and use them. So it is good way to manage your larger resource provisioning in larger companies, right? So inside VM template, it will create a virtual machine. Inside web template, it will create app service, and then database template will start using app service will start using that SQL DB, things like that. Okay, so with this, I think we have covered a lot of ground in terms of basically introduction to the cloud, mainly to Azure. Like I always tell that Azure is going to be our default choice. Lot of things to learn, right? But from now onwards, we will move more towards programming kind of something which is more important from programming and architect point of view. But these skills that we have learned or talked about will be used to practically do those things, right? I may not be doing all the things, but I will tell you that try doing this, like I am pointing you to tutorials and all. So keep that fire in your bellies to learn these command lines and things. It will help you a lot. Okay, it will clarify many more things than just listening to my lectures. Okay, I can give you more logical, abstract, and some hands-on thing, but I don't know myself most of the things, right? I have only one Azure certification and some experience, that's all. But if you really want to get into it, you will need to dirty your hands on your own. Okay. Of course, I am there for any guidance, but it's you who will have to do it. So I can point you to these resources like I did. You should go through this and learn. Okay. Then next time onwards, we will start with the cloud architectures here. Okay. I think we are already all done with our lecture time, I guess. Any questions? Anything else? No questions? Okay, then you guys take care and let me know if I can help anyway. Thank you guys. Bye.
Thank you, sir.
Yeah, thank you.